Alrighty, hey everyone, Nicole and Alyssa here with Blondes Breakdown Real Estate. We are continuing our series for sellers today and have two special guests. We've got Home Inspector Felipe Heller as well as Jeremy Henley with Quick Fix on to walk us through repairs that we're going to make prior to putting your home on the market and all of the potential costs associated. So many clients are asking us whether or not to make repairs or upgrades, and it really depends. So we'd like to break down what buyers may call out, what upgrades and repairs can actually add massive value, and what items are commonly looked over during a sale. So without further ado, welcome Philippe and welcome Jeremy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, you want to give us a quick, I know we've had you on before, Philippe and Jeremy. Welcome and thanks for being on. Do you guys want to give us just kind of your quick background on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Jeremy Henley. I'm the founder of Quick Fix, and we're actually a software company, but my background was previously in rehabbing homes and in software, and during the rehabbing process, we discovered a lot of similarities between repair requests that we would receive and some of the issues that come out, and after talking with a number of agents and even some inspectors, we realized there was real opportunity there to maybe fix a problem that was a painful one for a lot of real estate agents. So about last fall, we launched our website, really got serious in January of this year. And even with everything going on, we've had a lot of success and really started to grow the company. So thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right, I'm up next. I'm Felipe Heller. I'm the president and founder of the Real Estate Inspection Company here in San Diego. We're headquartered up in Ramona, but we work all over. And we do both, of course, inspections for buyers and what's becoming a lot more popular, like it is in Northern California, are pre-listing inspections because agents don't want to have any surprises. Sellers also should know the real condition of their home so that when a listing agent has that frank discussion about the value of the house, they can keep it real by saying, hey, here are some defects we found. This is where I think the price should be, so everyone has a realistic expectation. And one of the things we like to tell people about inspections is that the party that gets the inspection first has the upper hand in the negotiation. If it's the buyer, they're gonna have the upper hand because they're gonna find all these defects. But if the sellers get out ahead of it and they get the inspection first, they're gonna be able to confront any issues with the house, and then that will put the leverage back into their hands.
Okay, so let's start off. Last time on our buyer series, Philippe, you discussed a lot of items that buyers will see with older homes. Can you just kind of give us a little bit of a review on what some of those items are that you may see in homes that were built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s that has, raised an eyebrow here and there?
Sure. Well, one stat that I recently read is that millennials purchased more houses than boomers for the first time in history. So the demographic is shifting to younger buyers. And a lot of those younger buyers may not have grown up in an older home. They may have grown up in a home built in the 80s or newer, and so they're used to all the modern conveniences that we expect in a new home, built-in microwaves and three-prong outlets everywhere and double pane windows. Really what happens is when they go buy an older home in some of the great neighborhoods we have here in San Diego, North Park, Kensington, anywhere like that, you're dealing with very old homes that were built with completely different materials and technology and methods than the new homes. And so it's very important to set those expectations of what the differences are. You get into an older home built in the 30s or 40s or even 50s, there's no built-in microwave, maybe there's no dishwasher, single pane windows, maybe no insulation in those old homes, and certainly fewer receptacles and things like that. So it's really important as a buyer's agent to make sure that your buyers are aware of the differences in old homes versus new. They're not all the same, and of course sellers don't have to bring their old home up to today's code other than smoke detectors and strapping the water heater. But other than that, they don't have to do anything. So cast iron plumbing is probably one of the biggest showstoppers when a buyer finds out that, either the cast iron plumbing is bad and needs to be replaced, or it's an ungrounded electrical system, and that's thousands of dollars to get a new panel and get the whole house rewired, or even foundation issues because the old houses were made with a mortar concrete that had a lot of sand in it, and sometimes no rebar whatsoever. So sometimes we find structural problems with the foundation. And they can all be fixed, but they can be really shocking to a home buyer, especially a first-time home buyer.
I think on that note, it can also be really shocking to a seller, especially if when they bought it, they didn't have an agent who advised them properly, which we run into a lot, and they just kind of accepted all of these things without looking deeper. So I think that goes into my question. I always have sellers asking me, should I, get a home? We want to know, or we want to know later, and sometimes what you don't know can't hurt you. What's your take on that?
Can you repeat that question because you froze?
I froze? Oh, bummer. Okay. So basically, we always have sellers who want to know, should I get a pre-list inspection? Do we want to know what's wrong with the house? A lot of sellers feel that if we don't know about it, we don't have to disclose it. Whereas if we go digging and discover something, sometimes what you don't know can't hurt you. What are your thoughts?
Well, this is a great reason why we work with Jeremy, because we strongly believe that because the disclosure laws are so strong in California, we believe that it's incumbent on the sellers to disclose everything they know and do what they can to find out what they don't know. And the best way to do it is through a pre-listing inspection. Just because, they claim that they're not aware that water comes into the house during heavy rain isn't going to get them off the hook from a potential lawsuit. So we highly recommend, and not just to make money, because as inspectors, we're going to work for the buyers or the sellers. So we're not particular. We're going to work for whomever hires us and give them the best evaluation that we can. We strongly recommend to sellers that they do this because it helps them with the disclosure issues. As long as it's written down, there's no way they can get sued for it. And, sellers, they can't just stick their head in the sand and pretend that, well, if I don't know about it, and I haven't been in my attic in 15 years, and if there's a problem there, if I don't know about it, I don't have to tell the buyers. That's not really true. And if it does come to a lawsuit later on, they're going to have a tough time pretending or convincing the buyers and their attorneys that they don't know. So we do have a new program that helps sellers, which we can touch on in a minute. But this is why it's so important, not only to get that evaluation before you put the house on the market, but then with whatever findings, bring in someone like Jeremy to find out what the value of those repairs are. And he also has some other ways of dealing with those repairs, which can even help sellers who may not have any cash on hand. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. I think the other thing I would add on to what you're saying there is, if you don't understand what some of these problems are, and then the buyer comes in and they find out about them, and like you said, they walk away from the transaction, now you have to go back and relist and disclose these things that you didn't disclose the first time around. And it just
a lot of dollars.
Property, right? And that just makes it even more difficult for everybody involved. So one of the things that we are able to do with our program is we get paid out of escrow in a lot of cases. And so, if it's a pre-listing, even in some cases, and we haven't really talked about this yet, if it's not, things that may get called out on a home inspection, but it's maybe updates to a home that'll help it sell faster, which may not be the biggest thing at the moment, but to get top dollar, a lot of folks are still doing that. And we can actually take that out of escrow. So, there's some parameters around there, but they're not super strict.
Awesome.
Rebuilding your whole foundation may not be something that is a part of that, but a lot of the fixes that are going to be called out in a home inspection report, and even some of the kind of light remodeling things like carpets and paints and things like that are things we will do in that program.
Okay, can you go into, sorry if you guys wanted to hit this later, but go into more about that. How do you do that? Do you have to have contingencies removed? Do you take a deposit? How do you make sure you get your money?
Yeah, so like I said, we have a few parameters around it in our agreement with them, but essentially we come out, we'll perform all the work. We ask that the home gets listed basically as soon as we're done, and their stagers or pictures or whatever is coming in right behind us, and then that we try to get it under contract within 30 days. And if it's not under contract in 30 days, we do start to ask for some sort of payments. We have a few options on that. And then after another 30 days, kind of increase that. But the expectation is that we're going to have put together a property that's going to look nice, it's going to sell quickly, and it's not going to get caught up with a long repair request list or anything like that, and it should be a fairly smooth transaction. So far we've been really successful with it and haven't had any problems.
Yeah, that's huge, because I have a seller right now where she knew that she had some drainage issues and she needed to redo some of the jacks on her foundation. She was going to offer credit to the buyer, when they discovered it. sure enough, the buyer discovers it, freaks out, and cancels. Whereas if we would have had, she didn't want to come out of pocket because she couldn't afford to, because all of her money is tied up in her house. But if she would have had you guys as a resource, that would have saved us a whole lot of time and hassle. So I think that that's awesome and great to meet you. I'll definitely be doing this.
We've had nothing but
notes on the side here.
Yeah, exactly.
really good feedback, because it does help that seller who may be cash poor, and it also helps the listing agents because it just makes your job easier. You're not going to have to deal with a nasty request for repair and then that further negotiation, always at the 11th hour. And another great thing about working with Jeremy is that, especially with COVID and all the, the PED forms and trying to get access to a house, he can provide estimates without the realtor having to go back to the property and trying to set appointments. And Alyssa, like you said, getting a contractor to come out to give you a free bid for work that they may likely not get, it's just a waste of everybody's time.
It's a tough sell.
Yeah. So Jeremy and his team can provide those numbers remotely, which, saves you a lot of time.
How do you pull those numbers? Where do you get that from?
Yeah. So it's really easy for us when there's a home inspection report. So, we've developed our database. I mentioned that having a little bit of a background in software. One of the things we recognize that even across different inspection forms, there is a lot of similarity with how they are categorized, and the issues that are called out are often very similar from home to home. A lot of drains, a lot of electrical, a lot of roofing issues, some foundation things and whatnot. But what we've recognized is that after thousands of these that we've gone through, we can build a database and we can pretty quickly go through with the picture and a description from the home inspector. It's kind of our eyes and ears in the property. And for the most part, it's worked really well for us to be very accurately able to quote and stand by the quote, 99% of the time.
Cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We started putting together kind of a list like that of like, okay, we know that a pressure regulator is about $300, and because it's the same things that come up over and over again. So it's cool that you guys have created a kind of algorithm to average that out and stuff. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we have about 1,000 things in the catalog now that are, easy for us to come in and just add a number to.
That's a great resource. So can we just kind of backtrack a little bit to some of the bigger, or actually scratch that, even back further. Felipe, for your pre-inspection report, is that any different than an inspection that a buyer is going to get? Are there any differences?
We may put in a few more of the maintenance items, which really don't necessarily fall under a buyer's inspection. Let me rephrase. There's, a lot of what goes into an inspection report are simply deferred maintenance items, little things. So we really harp on the sellers to do those things that make the house just look shabby, like it wasn't taken care of.
Give us some examples of what those deferred maintenance
leaking faucets, angle stop valves that are corroded. They may not be leaking, and we'll call this out on the buyer side as well, but they are prone to, and they are going to cause a leak at some point. So that's probably one of the top 5 things we call out in a home is plumbing issues that will result in property damage. So corroded angle stop valves, worn fixtures, that shower that just won't shut off unless the handle's just in the right spot, water heaters that are way past their prime. And again, they may not be leaking today, but it is a risk, and it's going to be called out on the buyer side. And they're going to want a credit. They're going to say, hey, this water heater is 20 years old. They have a 10-year life. I don't want to move into this house. So a lot of those things, essentially it's the same report. We're just, harp a little bit more on the deferred maintenance, because that is look at, if you're going to buy a pre-owned car, mm-hmm. and the tires are worn and the brakes are worn, but the seller says, hey, you know what, I'm going to give you a credit for that so you can go buy your own tires and your own brakes. You're going to be like, man, how is this car taken care of? Did you ever do an oil change or whatnot? Now, you go buy a pre-owned car and you could tell, here are the maintenance records, here's the repairs I recently had done, here's the receipt for the new tire. You're going to be like, man, I feel good about buying this car. And it just makes the seller more secure, because they're not going to get surprised with any big repair requests at the last minute. And it sure makes the buyer feel a lot more confident that they're buying a house that was well maintained.
Yeah, there's such an emotional aspect to home buying that we can say, oh, the numbers are going to pencil out the same either way. But if a buyer doesn't feel that the house has been taken care of,
It's important too for any seller that's watching this and not even planning on selling. Keep a good record. Keep one file in your house, whether you store that under your bed or in an office space or wherever it is. I have a property that I managed for my parents over by SDSU, and I was just actually walking a buyer's agent through there. And since I've been doing all the property management, I have receipts of everything that has had to be fixed or updated or anything like that. And was able to give that agent all of that information as we walked through the property. She was like, wow, I really wish every house was like this because I know exactly what we're, walking into. And her buyer felt the same way. So it really does make a difference if, you're able to provide documentation for everything up front. There's no big surprises and they kind of have an idea of, how to price their offer and everything like that as well.
Nicole, I had to laugh when you said the water heater way past due. Do you
With
have a story about that at all?
Alyssa and I did a deal together, and I was representing the buyer and she was representing the seller, and there was a water heater that was a bit past its age.
I think it was like 80s or 90s, and I told them, I was like, you should really just replace this. You're on borrowed time.
She told the sellers that, and they were like, well, there's no issues. We asked for a few other things in the request for repairs and figured.
Gave a credit, I think.
Yeah, I think a credit probably. And we're about a week from escrow closing, I think, and the water heater burst.
And the house was vacant, so nobody caught it.
Yeah. And we had to, I mean, it's an awful thing. I can't believe I'm laughing right now, but it's just one of those things that happens. And luckily my buyers were able to get brand new flooring throughout the home, and it was all covered by the seller's insurance company. And it was a pain in the butt for the sellers. And I'm really grateful that it was Alyssa on the other side. And, we were able to work together to get both of our clients to the next chapter. But
the seller ended up having to pay for that water heater plus an insurance deductible. Whereas if he would have just replaced the water heater, he would have closed earlier, been done faster.
Yeah.
And we have a solution for that now. We offer a line of products. This is maybe a topic for a different.
No, lay it on us.
No, go.
Yeah, we are now selling a product from a company in Canada called Alert Labs, and it's an amazing suite of products to help prevent water damage in a leak. It's a series of sensors and a meter that sits on your water meter, and it monitors the usage. So first of all, you can audit your bills and it'll tell you when your usage is out of alignment. It learns, it's got artificial intelligence, but it's even smart enough, you can put in an automatic valve. So if it detects a flood at a water heater or your laundry room or wherever you put one of the sensors, it will shut off your water automatically for you to prevent the house from flooding. It's one thing to have a sensor.
That is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, how much do those cost?
They start, let's see, the meter, the sensor that goes on your water meter for most houses in San Diego is about $695, and the a real simple setup to start up would be under $1,000, including the monitoring, because like I said, it does use artificial intelligence to learn your water patterns. And you have an app on your phone. It alerts you when your water usage is big, because you may, let's say a irrigation sprinkler breaks and you start gushing water in your yard. It's not going to damage the house, but water's so expensive in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And we know, like in areas like La Jolla, you have a long-term leak, it could cause a landslide. How many houses did we lose, 10 years ago or so? Well, the whole hillside slid away because of a leak. So it's smart enough to learn that and see that you're using water, or even a leaky toilet. It may just be using, 2 gallons, 3 gallons, 4 gallons a minute over time, like all night long. And it's going to alert you and say, hey, you have water usage when you shouldn't have. So it's a really cool system, and we can dive into it in another
landlords that have rental properties also that may potentially have, renters that aren't paying attention to leaks.
My dad is going to be all over this. We have a few rental properties.
Wow. Yeah,
it's very cool, and it's great for property management because they can monitor all their properties on one dashboard and see what the usage is, get alerts for anything. And the main thing is that, just like the story you shared, if it can stop the water and stop the water damage from one failed water heater, it certainly pays for itself many times over. You don't have that deductible, you don't have the disruption. And you're not going to have the stigma of having had a leak in a house. And is there mold? Is there not? You know, there's always that stigma around it. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Remind me the name of this.
It's a suite of products from Alert Labs.
Alert Labs. Cool. Okay. And how do you get your hands on one? Because I won't.
Yeah, we have them available on our website, and we do offer our clients a discount on there. But if you go to sdinspect.com and click on water monitoring, it'll show them all to you along with the description. It's very cool equipment, very high quality, not made in China, you know, cheap stuff that you buy on Amazon. This is really good quality stuff.
Cool. I'm into it.
I'm super excited about that. So we know that an old water heater is definitely something to replace, you know, beforehand because it can cause so much damage. What other stuff do you think comes up that a seller should definitely fix up front versus stuff that they shouldn't spend their money on?